chosen one. You didn't stumble into this moment. Something led you here. And if your chest feels tight right now, if your spirit feels alert, this is not random. There are people who feel unseen even while standing in familiar rooms. People who sense pressure before words are spoken. People who grew up feeling like guests in their own home. If that's you, stay with me. You've carried a weight you could never name, a quiet knowing, a pull toward something higher without instructions on how to reach it. You learned early how to stay silent, how to observe, how to survive emotional coldness without losing your inner fire. You felt watched when no one was looking, judged without accusation, resisted without explanation. You weren't imagining it. There are battles that don't leave bruises, conflicts that never raise voices, pressure that settles into the nervous system and whispers, "Something is wrong," without telling you why. You tried to be smaller to keep the peace. You tried to be agreeable, normal, quiet enough to not disturb the air. Still, the tension followed you. Isolation found you early, not because you wanted it, because your presence changed rooms. You may not have understood it then, but your sensitivity was never weakness. Your depth was never a flaw. Your questions were never rebellion. You were listening to layers others refused to hear. There were nights when sleep didn't feel like rest, dreams that felt heavier than daylight, images that lingered, messages that stayed with you long after morning arrived, moments where time slowed and something unseen felt near. You didn't talk about it because you knew how it would sound. You didn't share because you learned early that truth can make people uncomfortable. Pressure does that. It teaches you discernment before language. It sharpens awareness before confidence. You felt misunderstood not because you were unclear, but because clarity threatens people who survive by avoidance. Your calm unsettled them. Your stillness exposed what noise had been hiding, and rather than turn inward, they turned on you. Here's the truth most never say out loud. Light doesn't need permission to reveal. It just does. Your life has been a mirror, not a weapon, not an accusation, a mirror. And mirrors make people choose. They either face what they see or break the glass. So they labeled you too intense, too serious, too spiritual, too distant, too much. But the truth is simpler. You couldn't pretend not to feel what you felt. You couldn't unsee what you saw. You couldn't shrink what was expanding inside you. There is a reason resistance showed up in familiar places. Distance hurt more when it came from blood. Silence cut deeper when it came from those who should have protected you. That wasn't punishment. That was exposure. Because when something within you begins to align, anything built on denial reacts. Not with honesty, with discomfort. You weren't rejected because you were wrong. You were resisted because you were changing. There comes a moment in certain lives when inner alignment becomes unavoidable, when the old dynamics can no longer hold the new frequency, when relationships based on familiarity start collapsing under truth. That moment came for you early. You tried to explain yourself. It didn't work. You tried to prove your intentions. It didn't matter. You tried to soften your presence. They still felt threatened. Because this was never about behavior. It was about being. There is timing written into every awakening. Some wake up slowly, comfortably, surrounded by support. Others wake up under pressure, stripped of reassurance, forced to listen inward because outward voices cannot be trusted. You are the second kind, and the isolation you felt wasn't abandonment. It was protection disguised as loss. When familiar voices cannot hear what is forming inside you, distance becomes mercy, because interference delays clarity, and you were never meant to be delayed. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were receptive, because you felt deeply without becoming cruel, because you questioned without losing humility, because you could stand alone without becoming bitter. The moments that confused you were invitations. The dreams that shook you were instructions still unfolding. The encounters that felt more real than logic were reminders that reality is larger than what is visible. You have been guided more than you realize. There were times you almost gave up on yourself. Times you wondered if the pressure meant you were failing. Times you questioned your sanity, your strength, your direction. But something always pulled you back, a quiet certainty that refused to die. That certainty is not self-generated, it is planted, and planted things grow even underground. What you're stepping into now is understanding, not the kind that inflates ego, the kind that settles the nervous system. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be aligned with truth, and alignment always costs comfort before it brings peace. Your sensitivity is calibration, your awareness is training, your solitude is refinement. Nothing has been wasted. The resistance you faced taught you restraint. The silence taught you listening. The misunderstanding taught you discernment. The loneliness taught you how to stand without applause. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in the exact stage required for what comes next. And what comes next does not require permission from those who doubted you. It requires consent from you. Consent to stop shrinking. Consent to stop explaining. Consent to stop carrying guilt for being different. You were never meant to blend in with systems built on fear. You were meant to move through them without absorbing their distortion. Your presence alone shifts environments. Not because you try, because truth does that naturally. You are not here to convince, you are here to embody. And embodiment is quiet, steady, unapologetic. The pressure is lifting because clarity is arriving, not all at once, but enough to breathe again. You don't need to fight your family. You don't need to prove your calling. You don't need to justify your path. What is real will reveal itself through time. Your task now is simple but not easy. Remain aligned, remain honest, remain grounded. Let silence do what arguments never could. Let consistency speak where explanations failed. Let peace become your evidence. You are not walking away from love. You are walking toward truth. And truth always feels lonely at first, but it never leaves you empty. Something is unfolding in your favor, quietly, deliberately, irreversibly. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to announce it. You just need to stay present. Because the same force that kept you when you were unseen is the same force guiding you now. And you are not alone in this moment. You never were. There will be moments when the old voices try to return, not loudly, subtly, in memory, in tone, in doubt disguised as logic. They will remind you of who you used to be or who they needed you to remain. This is the final test of alignment. Because growth is quiet until it isn't, and before expansion becomes visible, resistance often disguises itself as concern. You may hear questions that sound caring but carry control, suggestions that feel supportive but pull you backward. Pay attention to how your body responds. Your discernment is sharper now. You are learning that peace is not passive, it is active alignment. It is choosing not to re-enter cycles that cost you your clarity. It is understanding that love does not require access to your inner world when that access brings confusion instead of connection. You once confused endurance with loyalty. You stayed longer than necessary. You listened longer than was healthy. You tried to heal spaces that were never meant to be your responsibility. That chapter taught you compassion. It also taught you limits. Now you are being asked to trust what you feel without apology, to honor your inner signals without over-explaining them, to stop negotiating with discomfort just to keep others comfortable. There is a difference between humility and self-erasure. You have crossed that bridge. You know it now. The clarity arriving is not dramatic. It is steady. It feels like standing on solid ground after years of adjusting to shifting floors. You are beginning to recognize yourself without the distortion of others' expectations. This is what integration feels like. The path ahead will not be loud. It will be intentional. You will choose your words carefully. You will choose your environments wisely. You will protect your energy not out of fear, but out of respect for what you carry. What you carry does not need defending. It needs space. There will be times when loneliness tries to return, wearing the mask of nostalgia. Remember this. Missing familiarity does not mean it was aligned. Longing does not always point backward. Sometimes it points to the part of you that is still adjusting to peace. You are not meant to rush this stage. Integration takes time, strength needs grounding, awareness needs rest. You may notice fewer people around you now. This is not loss. This is refinement. The connections that remain will feel different, less performative, more real. You will be met without explanation, heard without effort, seen without shrinking. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Your life is reorganizing itself around truth, and truth simplifies. What once felt complicated was never complex, it was misaligned. You are stepping into a phase where your presence is enough, where you no longer chase validation or fear misunderstanding, where your nervous system recognizes safety not in approval, but in authenticity. This is power without force, authority without noise. The past does not get to define the future simply because it was familiar. You are allowed to outgrow rooms that taught you survival. You are allowed to choose environments that support expansion. There is no guilt in choosing yourself when self-abandonment was the expectation. You will still love, you will still care, but you will no longer betray your inner knowing to maintain peace that was never real. This is maturity. The next chapter of your life will not be announced. It will unfold quietly at first, then unmistakably. Those who doubted will notice the change before they understand it. Those who resisted will feel the distance before they name it. And some will come back with new eyes. If they do, you will meet them without bitterness, without explanation, without shrinking, because you no longer need to be understood to be whole. You are learning how to stand in your life without apology, how to trust your timing, how to move without seeking permission. This is not isolation anymore, this is sovereignty. You are not disconnected, you are discerning. And what lies ahead will meet you where you are now, not where you were. You have done the hard part. You listened when silence was the only teacher. You stayed when doubt tried to make you disappear. You chose awareness over comfort. Now you get to live from that choice. Let the old narratives fall away. Let the pressure dissolve. Let the clarity settle. You are exactly where you are meant to be. And what is meant for you will recognize you without struggle. Stay present, stay grounded, stay honest. Everything else will align.